NATO kicks him out. That headline is everywhere right now because it's perfect clickbait. It sounds like a Hollywood scene. World leaders vote, the doors close, and Donald Trump is banned from the biggest alliance on Earth. But here's the problem. NATO isn't a club that can kick out a person. It's a treaty between countries. So tonight, we're going to do something most channels refuse to do. We're going to kill the viral myth and expose the real power play underneath it. Because if Europe can't kick out Trump, the real question is far more dangerous. What can Europe do if Trump threatens NATO's guarantees? And the second question, equally important, what does Trump actually want from NATO? If you want drama, you'll get it, but it will be real drama. This is analysis based on publicly available reporting from major outlets and the structure of NATO itself. When I state facts, I will attribute them. When I interpret incentives, I'll label it as analysis. Let's start with the headline. The idea that NATO can kick out Trump is a category error, because NATO doesn't have members who are individuals. It has member states. A person can be isolated diplomatically. A person can be avoided at summits. A person can be criticized by leaders. But that's not the same as NATO expelling a member. And on the core claim, expulsion, major reporting has been clear for years. AP reported NATO's leadership has said there is no mechanism in the alliance for expelling a member, and that introducing one is unlikely. Reuters has also explained there is no formal mechanism in NATO's founding document for suspension or expulsion of a member. So when you see NATO kicks him out, translate it. What the headline usually means is NATO politics are turning against Trump's approach. That's still a big story, but it's a different story. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's built on a treaty signed in 1949, where member states commit to collective defense. And the key word is states, countries, governments, parliaments. If a member leaves NATO, the treaty mainly contemplates one route: a state chooses to withdraw. That's why expulsion is so hard. Even if members wanted it, NATO operates by consensus for most major decisions, meaning the member being targeted would effectively be part of the room. So no, NATO isn't going to ban Trump. But here's the part the clickbait gets right. NATO can be shaped in ways that limit U.S. leverage if Europe chooses to pay for it. Now, why is this topic exploding right now? Because Europe has a nightmare scenario, and that scenario is not Trump gets kicked out. It's Trump chooses not to show up, not physically, politically. Europe's fear is that the U.S. commitment becomes conditional. Pay more, do more, or don't count on us. And that fear is so real that Reuters reported NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte recently slapped down calls for a separate European army, calls that were prompted by fears about Trump's commitment and tensions like Greenland. AP also reported Rutte emphasized Europe cannot defend itself without U.S. support, describing how massively expensive full self-reliance would be. So the real story is this. Europe is debating how to become NATO-proof in case Trump turns the alliance into a business deal. This is the strategic center of gravity. Trump doesn't need NATO to love him. He needs NATO to respond to his leverage. And Trump's leverage is simple. The United States provides capabilities Europe still can't replace quickly: logistics, intelligence, airlift, missile defense, and the nuclear umbrella. So Trump's message to Europe has a pattern: pay up, rearm, stop free riding. Rutte's message, according to Reuters and AP, aligns with that reality. Europe should invest more inside NATO, not build a parallel army that duplicates structures and burns money. So Trump's goal isn't to destroy NATO on day one. The goal is to reset NATO's burden sharing on terms that look like a win for him. And that's why the sensational headlines are misleading. The conflict isn't NATO versus Trump. It's Trump versus Europe's comfort zone. So let's answer the real question. If Europe can't kick Trump out, what can it do? Here are the three real levers. Lever 1, spend more, faster, and prove it's permanent. This is not about press conferences. It's about factories, ammo, air defense, and readiness. If Europe actually increases production and deployable capability, U.S. leverage shrinks. Lever 2. Build a European pillar inside NATO without breaking NATO. This is the Ruta argument as described by Reuters. Don't create a separate army that duplicates command structures. Instead, deepen European capacity within NATO's framework. Lever 3. Political isolation and agenda control. This is the closest thing to ban Trump, but it's softer. Leaders can coordinate messaging. They can shape summit outcomes. They can limit how much the alliance adapts to Trump's preferences. But notice what none of those are. None of those are kicking out. They're insulation. Now, the European army idea is a perfect example of political theater. It sounds bold. It sounds independent. It sounds like Europe taking control. But Reuters reported Ruta rejected it, warning it would weaken Europe by duplicating structures and stretching resources. AP reported Ruta emphasized Europe cannot defend itself without U.S. help unless it radically increases spending. He described the scale of investment that would be required. And there's a brutal truth underneath. A real independent European defense posture needs more than money. It needs time, integration, and in some arguments, its own nuclear guarantee. That is politically explosive. So when you see Europe forms an army, ask, is this a slogan or a capability? Let's talk about what NATO can do to manage members or issues without expulsion. NATO can coordinate policy positions that create pressure, limit what gets prioritized in communiques, shift operational focus, increase bilateral and regional defense cooperation among European states. And NATO can also take actions against non-member personnel, like removing Russian mission staff. Reuters has reported NATO expelled members of Russia's mission as undeclared intelligence officers in the past. But that is not the same as expelling a member state. So when viewers see ban language, what's usually happening is political messaging, leaders signaling disapproval. It's real politics, but not real expulsion. Now, why is Greenland showing up in this NATO panic conversation? Because the Arctic is where NATO's geography meets U.S. strategy. And Reuters and AP have both linked recent European anxiety to tensions surrounding Greenland. Whether the specific deal dynamics shift or not, the point is, when Trump talks about territory, alliances, or defense in transactional terms, Europe hears uncertainty. And uncertainty is poison in deterrence. Deterrence requires the opponent to believe the alliance will act fast. So Europe's response isn't only emotional, it's strategic risk management. Now let's put on the Visua Capital lens. Markets don't price speeches. Markets price credibility. If NATO credibility weakens, the risk premium rises. Defense spending accelerates, procurement contracts move, energy routes and Arctic logistics matter more, and investors start pricing political fragmentation in Europe. And that's why NATO-broken narratives are powerful. Even if the treaty remains, confidence can wobble, and confidence is a tradable asset. Here's the cleanest way to read Trump's approach. Trump turns alliances into negotiations, then uses uncertainty as leverage to extract measurable concessions, money, deployments, commitments that he can sell as winning. That doesn't mean NATO ends tomorrow. It means NATO becomes conditional in tone, until Europe pays enough to reduce the condition. Scenario 1. The burden reset scenario. Europe increases spending and production inside NATO. Trump claims victory. NATO survives, more muscular, more European heavy. Scenario 2. The fragmentation scenario. Europe pursues strategic autonomy outside NATO structures. Ruta's fear becomes reality. Duplication, wasted resources, and political division. Russia benefits from confusion. Scenario 3. The transactional NATO scenario. NATO continues, but cooperation becomes pay-to-play in spirit. Europe is constantly trying to buy certainty. The U.S. keeps leverage high. Which is most likely? Based on Reuters and AP coverage of Rutte's pushback, the alliance leadership wants scenario 1, more Europe inside NATO, not outside it. So the story to watch isn't ban Trump, it's Europe pays or Europe panics. Here's the takeaway. NATO can't kick out Trump. That's the myth. But Europe can still change the game by building capability, not slogans, by insulating NATO from personality politics, by spending enough to make U.S. leverage smaller over time. And Trump's real goal is not to get applause from Brussels. It's to force a reset he can brand as a win. So the next time you see NATO kicks him out, translate it. Europe is scrambling because it still needs the United States.